when you ask the voters about the different ends of the Democratic Party, at least in terms of elected officials, what do they actually prefer? Well, it is pretty clear. We're gonna compare approval ratings for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Joe Manchin. Among Democrats, for Ocasio-Cortez, 47% say they view her very favorably and 28% somewhat favorably. So that is overwhelming, very, or somewhat favorable, and a lot of very. Like half of Democrats like her as much as they are able to communicate in a poll. For Manchin, among Democrats, it's 4% very favorably and 18% somewhat favorable. So that's 22 versus her 75. So it ain't close. There's almost no one that's like, Joe Manchin is totally my guy, 2 thumbs up. And yet I feel like the conversation nationally is AOC is kind of a divisive figure. Don't really know about her. We need, bipartisanship and Democrats that can they're a little bit more moderate. They represent more of the, but do they represent more of the country when so few Democrats seem at all interested in Joe Manchin?
But this is what doesn't make sense. So the top level, or I don't know, top level, but the very basic answer to that poll data in Manchin's favor is that a Democrat in West Virginia is not the equivalent of a Democrat literally anywhere else. It's not. But the truth when you start analyzing that is actually more devastating and more puzzling that Manchin would be behaving the way he is. Because the Democrats in West Virginia are, half of the people that we know as Republicans from West Virginia switched parties after the realignment solidified exactly who that was. So they used to be Democrats anyway. Like the same way that a Bashir keeps getting elected as a Democrat in Kentucky is because of the personal vote. So really it's up in the air in terms of who you want to vote for based on what they're advocating for. And the kind of moderate Democrat that Manchin is becoming is not the kind of moderate Democrat you would expect out of West Virginia. It's a poor state. Yeah. I get his opposition to the Green New Deal because there's a lot of coal getting pulled out of the ground in West Virginia. But a lot of the populism, that $15 an hour minimum wage, that economic populism should resonate in West Virginia. So he should be taking this opportunity to get that $15 an hour minimum wage in the bill now, when it's not kind of pegged to some other initiative like the Green New Deal, where you could understand West Virginians being opposed to it. It just doesn't make sense to me. Instead, he wants to be the belle at the ball, and he knows he has the power, and he wants to use it. It's so puzzling. Like Arizona is a completely different thing, and you could see Sinema reading different tea leaves. But Manchin, $15 an hour, when the Republican, one of the turncoat former Democrat, now Republican governor, is advocating for $15 an hour minimum wage. It just doesn't make sense. That's why people hate him.
And look, if he's a different sort of Democrat, I think the idea is that he is supposed to be, because Democrats broadly in West Virginia will be different, even though I think that gets exaggerated. But sure, there's some difference, and also that's
wrong.
He in what that there are 100. I think that some of the same fundamental economic concerns having to do with things like wages, health insurance, and things like that, I don't think are that dissimilar from West Virginia and other states.
I just
in theory, I think
this guy
even more.
Let me characterize Joe Manchin for you. Joe Manchin's political affiliations with you. He used a rifle to shoot. I think I might be mixing a couple commercials. He uses a rifle to shoot a bit of legislation that would take away coverage for people's pre-existing conditions.
He shot the cap and trade bill.
He shot the cap. He shoots he has so many ads with guns. He also shot
with a shotgun an anti-Obamacare lawsuit. I can't tell if that was positive towards.
No, he said you're going to come down. He's basically said you're going to take away coverage from pre-existing conditions. You're going to do it from my cold dead hands. So he needs to say
shooting legislation.
No, he can't keep. He's like, the NRA loves me, and I want to give you health care, and I want to give you $15 an hour minimum wage. That's where it breaks down for me. I don't fully understand it. I love someone to explain it to me. But when I'm talking about the difference, that's what I'm talking about. There's a lot of people who I don't trust the government. I don't like it. but I love Medicare and Social Security, and I love coverage for my pre-existing conditions because I can't get health care because the coal companies come in and they pay me, they treat me like hell, they pollute the hell out of my family. We all have cancer, but it's the only game in town. And I'm not gonna listen to people who say we're gonna give you a solar power job because we're coal miners. And it doesn't all hold together, but I totally understand the argument to say like, don't transfer what?
It's not that many people. Again, it gets exaggerated how many people actually work in that. I mean,
coal
it's
miner
never
is
going
like
to be
an example of whatever industry they have, of the few that can exist in West Virginia.
Yeah, all the more reason to start up new industries that at least in theory could grow in a way that the coal industry is never going to be able to. It's not that big now. It's only inevitably going to be smaller. All the more reason to, I don't know, take some of those mountains you blasted the top off of and put some solar panels on it. I don't know.
But I'm just saying that's what I'm and John, I agree with you in terms of like the logic of your argument, but in terms of dealing with people and convincing them that they should accept a huge change in their life and trust the government about it, I'm just talking about the messaging challenge.
Sure. Okay. I had more I want to say, but we have a lot that we also have to get to. I will say that the polling also shows that the numbers that I showed were amongst Democrats when you ask voters more broadly, which in theory, I would argue if Manchin is supposed to be more appealing to Republicans or conservatives, he should have a competitive advantage in. No, she's still twice as popular with voters broadly than with just Democrats.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.